in his ankle during an emergency surgery. The statement said Woods is currently awake, responsive, and recovering in his hospital room. Thank God. Stephen A., I'll start with you. What was your reaction initially when you heard about Tiger's accident?
Well, initially, I was scared to death. Considering what transpired last January 26th with Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others in that fatal helicopter crash, along with so many, stories involving death in the year 2020 coming into 2021. When you saw the accident, when you saw the truck and the details were not available to us at that particular moment in time, I feared the worst. I was scared to death that Tiger Woods was in a car accident and that ultimately it would prove to be fatal. As the hours went by, and I was summoned to Sports Center yesterday, we got news that came in first from his representatives talking about it was he had incurred leg injuries and he was being operated on. Once you heard that it was about his legs and what have you, the next emotional reaction I had was just relief. The fact that, I know there was people out there contemplating writing his epitaph and eulogizing him to some degree. The fact that we didn't have to go that route, I was incredibly relieved, and I didn't really care too much about his career and whether or not it would be resumed. He is 45 years of age. His best days appear to be behind him. He had accomplished a great many things in the sport of golf, a 15-time a majors champion, 82 PGA Tour wins, recognized universally as arguably the greatest who's ever lived, even though he never caught Jack Nicklaus. The bottom line is that as a golfer, he solidified himself a long time ago as one of, if not the greatest ever. This was about the man, the human being, the father, and just hoping beyond hope that, he ended up okay. And so now that we're hearing about, his leg injury and what have you, the fact that we expect to see him again alive and well and spending time with his family, the emotion that comes to my mind is relief. But initially, to answer your question directly, I was scared to death. I thought that we were going to hear news that he had passed away, and that's what I'm relieved that's not the case.
I was on the air live doing my radio show when this news broke, and you don't want to speculate, so all I could really do is repeat the information at the time that was available at the time. And Stephen A., I felt exactly as you did. My mind immediately, I think as most of us did, went to Kobe Bryant. And I thought, oh, no, come on. And especially when you see the pictures of the car, and the early reporting was that they had to extricate him from the vehicle with the jaws of life. Paramedics and firefighters bringing him to a hospital, and a single car accident. You think, please be alive. That's the first thing. Survive this. And then when his agent posted that the statement that he was having surgery on multiple leg injuries, I also started talking about at that moment on air the fact that, look, you don't know anything yet other than it's leg injuries. But what that does tell you is you feel better than if you hear head injuries or some major organs. And so you at that point, you started feeling like, okay, we're out of the woods in terms of the mortal peril to Tiger Woods. And at that point, your mind starts going to new places. You think, is he going to be okay in his career? You don't allow yourself to go there immediately because you're worried about his life. What's this going to mean going forward? And then, of course, what happened? Tiger Woods in 2009 was in a car crash. In 2017 was asleep at the wheel. He was taking medication. He didn't understand the side effects. And so you think, how did it happen? What's the investigation going to show? But the first thing was, is he okay? Is he going to live? Then, what does this mean going forward? And then, okay, what comes of this? Why did this happen? The big takeaway, so to speak, is you're not promised tomorrow. I mean, we're constantly reminded of this. And when I think of Tiger Woods, guys, in my lifetime, he is one of only, I'd say, 3 athletes who stood out, who captured the public's imagination in the way he did. There was Michael Jordan in my lifetime, at least as not as a 5-year-old or something. There was Mike Tyson and there was Tiger Woods. He was one of those guys that loomed so much larger than the game he played in the public's imagination. And right now, I think the main thing is we all breathe a sigh of relief that this was not a fatal crash, that Tiger Woods is alive.
Yeah, Max, just like you, I was on the air doing my radio show and had just gotten into the first segment, and I looked down as my phone started buzzing, even before I was going through Twitter, and saw that one of our colleagues, Adam Schefter, was calling me, and I couldn't understand quite why he would be calling me, even though we're friends and talk golf stuff all the time, because in that first segment of radio, we were talking about Tiger and his interview with Jim Nantz and what we thought that was going to mean going forward. And then as the report came across Twitter and the picture of the SUV came across, my initial thought was just like both you and Stephen A. Smith, and that is, it's a gut punch. When you see the picture of that SUV and read that report of a single car crash, and him being the only occupant in the vehicle, and the initial report of what they had to use, what they said at the time they had to use to get him out, which proved later to not be true. But when you hear that the first time, that sinking feeling hits your stomach, and your initial thought is, oh no, please not this, not now. And that, which was the same feeling that we had when we learned about Kobe, and that was the biggest fear. And then as the day went on and as the reports came in, you go from life-threatening injuries to limb-threatening injuries. And I started texting back and forth with a friend of mine who was a trauma surgeon in the armed forces, and so was asking, hey, what should I be looking for? What should we be expecting? And then seeing some of, Justin Thomas having to do his presser while this news was coming out, and you could see how emotional he was. And listen, when it comes down to it, there are times when things happen that a person's occupation doesn't matter, and that the only thing that matters is life and family. And initially, when we saw that car and those reports initially came out, that's all that mattered. The only thing that mattered was Tiger Woods' life and his family. And now, thank goodness, we can look back and take a little bit of a breath and go, okay, as of now, life is not in jeopardy. And so it's nice to be able to take that breath and move on from there, because for that initial moment, we didn't have that luxury.
Somebody texted me yesterday, and they said to me they wanted to make it very, very clear that they know Tiger well, and they were talking about how he was on his way to work to shoot a series for Discovery Golf when the crash took place. And they emphasized that, they felt it was important that he was working and wanted to be early, that he was quite responsible and professional, and they felt like that message wasn't coming across. I didn't quite understand why they felt the need to emphasize that to me. But I guess what I'm asking you is I'm interested in knowing, when we talk about the golf world, because I know you've spoken to several people in the golf world, obviously over the last 24 hours or so. I'm interested in knowing, just the outpouring of emotion, how it speaks to the change, whatever change that has taken place with Tiger Woods. Can you crystallize for the audience out there, what Tiger Woods was compared to what he is now as a person? Because it seems like it's one thing for the obvious to be put forth. You're happy he's alive and things of that nature. But it's another thing entirely where you see the emotions pouring for him in ways that you never anticipated it would pour out for Tiger Woods, at least once upon a time. Things have changed drastically for him. Can you crystallize that for our audience?
Absolutely, Stephen A. And it goes back to the Tiger Woods that was and the Tiger Woods that is. And he has changed as a person. During our radio show, I was on, and we had Paul Azinger on, and he was talking about the Tiger Woods that he used to compete against and why the young guys now are so emotional. And he said something that really struck me and hit home because of how true it is. And he said, when he was playing against Tiger Woods, Tiger was uncomfortable if you were comfortable with him. The kids now, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, Tiger now is uncomfortable if you're not comfortable with him. And I think that speaks a lot to who Tiger Woods is today. compared to who he was before, which is why with all the young golfers that are on the PGA Tour now, why you see the outpouring from athletes, not even in golf, but in all sports, the outpouring of emotion and prayers, hoping for the best for Tiger Woods. Because the Tiger Woods in 2000 is not the Tiger Woods of today. And I don't mean the golfer, I mean the person. And so the person that everyone loves today is a different person because he's a father, because of everything that he's gone through in his life. It is very difficult, even for the most stringent Tiger haters that are out there, not to root for this guy because of the comebacks that we've seen and everything that he's gone through. As you see now, that hug with him and Charlie when he won the 2019 Masters and there with his mom, that kind of emotion, knowing everything he had gone through and then looking back and remembering the hug that he shared with his dad on that green, that's the guy we now know. That's the guy that we all now appreciate because of the growth of a human being that is Tiger Woods.
By the way, I should mention that stretch of road where he crashed, apparently the reporting is that that's known locally as a dangerous spot where there are accidents. I just wanted to mention that because I hadn't mentioned it when I said, what will the investigation show? Piggybacking off of that question, Michael, in like movie making, in a script, ideally the emotional arc of the character matches the action, right? The arc of the action. And in Tiger Woods' case, as you're describing his emotional journey and where he wound up, he won his first major in forever. What was it, 11 years? At the Masters, right? So he'd finally, in that emotional journey, it matched the action of the story. And if he never golfs again, it feels like the 2019 Masters is the perfect ending. Is that something that is being discussed in? Have you considered that? Is that being discussed in golf circles? Like, wow,
no,
he got there, he won the Masters.
No, because it's Tiger Woods. And you have to remember, he won after that as well. He tied Sam Snead's record later. And so that's the one thing about golf. When you look at golf, there is no walk away like John Elway, like you win the Super Bowl and say, that's it. Hey, hats off, I'm out, and do the mic drop. That's very rarely, if ever, in golf does that happen because guys can keep playing. And remember, there's PGA Tour champions that is after, 50 that you could go play on. And I know Tiger, wanted to try and compete in the U.S. Senior Open. And if he won that tournament, then he would be the only player to have all USGA trophies in his house in history, which, Tiger loves stuff like that. So as movie-esque as it would have been for him to win that Masters and then just walk away into the sunset, maybe only playing in events with Charlie like we saw him do with the father-son last year, that's not quite how golf works. And so that's also why now you hear golfers talk about if there's one guy who would be able to come back from any injury out there, it's Tiger Woods, because what we've seen him go through before, how he won the U.S. Open in 2008 on a broken leg, how he came back through those back surgeries and, won the Masters. This is Tiger Woods we're talking about, so you never doubt him.
Yeah. Michael, thank you so much for being the second. Called his meeting yesterday with Ben Roethlisberger productive. He also said that Big Ben assured him that he's committed to coming back to help the Steelers win. The Steelers have said Roethlisberger will not be back on his current contract because they can't afford his, get ready for this number, guys, whopping $41.25 million salary cap hit for 2021. Stephen A., how important is it for Big Ben to return to your Steelers? In case people don't know, you are a fan of the yellow and black.
Well, it's very pivotal. Even though we look at Ben Roethlisberger and we question whether or not he can be the ingredient that leads them to the Super Bowl title, I personally believe it's the absence of a running game. They've had a bottom three running attack in the National Football League the last 3 years, which is just unthinkable for a Pittsburgh Steelers franchise that I've known and loved since I was a kid. But here's the bottom line. What other choice do you have? I think it's incredibly pivotal because as of right now, if you don't have Big Ben Roethlisberger, what you've got to defer to is Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins? Here's my response to that as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Hell no. No way in hell should that be the case. Now listen, Big Ben Roethlisberger, I think he's prone to mistakes. I think if you get him to throw the football 50 times, he's going to make a couple of mistakes, relatively pivotal mistakes. I recognize that. But the brother still threw for nearly 4,000 yards. He still had 33 touchdowns and just 10 interceptions. He still completed over 65% of his passes. He's been to 3 Super Bowls. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He does make plays. He does make enough big plays. And when you consider the plethora of weapons that they have available to them, whether it's James Washington, Juju Smith-Schuster, Claypool, Eric Ebron and the crew, the bottom line is you've got weapons to throw the football to. And you have somebody in Big Ben Roethlisberger who can throw them the football. He can't shrug off tacklers the way that he used to. He can't even scramble the way that he used to and extend plays to the degree that he used to. But he can still do it if you gave him a running game. My biggest issue for saying that Ben Roethlisberger's return is pivotal is the fact that there can't be a leaning on Mason Rudolph. I don't want to hear that Mason Rudolph is the new quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I've seen enough of him. I don't believe in him. I believe in him as a backup. I believe in him as an emergency dude to lean on for a few possessions or even a couple of games. But the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to say it again, hell no. And don't get me started with no Dwayne Haskins. I don't want to hear it. Let him show that he's professional enough to be in the league and to be responsible, Max, without getting himself in compromising situations during the Rona. Okay? You would think you know better as a quarterback to not expose yourself to the Rona, okay? But this dude was sitting up there being irresponsible. I don't know the details. I ain't going to get into the details, all right? This is a PG program, but damn it, he shouldn't have been in those situations, okay? So I'm not trusting him, and I certainly don't trust Mason Rudolph on a football field, and that is what elevates the level of urgency when it comes to Big Ben Roethlisberger returning as the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I don't know if they have the assets, Max, to pull off a trade and get a guy a quarterback, and I certainly don't believe they can do it through the draft. That's where I am with Big Ben.
Well, Stephen A., you're being very emotional.
Yes.
May I say, you're being quite
Absolutely.
emotional. And you are a fan of the team.
Yes.
Allow me, even though everyone in our generation had a rooting interest, either Cowboys or Steelers, right? So I'm with you on the Steelers. But let me, as not a hardcore Steelers fan, give you an objective take here.
Feel free.
It would be real cool if Roethlisberger ended his career with the Steelers eventually, the only team he ever played for.
Yeah.
One of the greatest franchises ever. As a great quarterback, all that. The way Eli did for the Giants, same draft class, right? When you've won Super Bowls with a franchise and been to a bunch of them, and it's cool if you can do that. It ain't necessary. Joe Montana was the GOAT before Tom Brady was. Joe Montana didn't end his career in San Francisco. Tom Brady replaced Joe Montana as the GOAT. Tom Brady didn't end his career in New England. And even other guys who were just associated with franchises and didn't win Super Bowls but were excellent for a bunch of years, like Phillip Rivers in San Diego and later Los Angeles, or Donovan McNabb in Philadelphia. They didn't end their careers with the teams they started with. That's the NFL. So from that point of view, it'd be cool. It ain't necessary. That's one. Two, from the Steelers' point of view, Roethlisberger is a competent quarterback still, and he's clearly the best option that they presently have, at least that we're aware of. But he ain't going to win them the Super Bowl. I don't know if you can win a Super Bowl right now with Roethlisberger unless you are like the most loaded team in the league, given his age, the injuries, and the change in his game. Especially with the offensive line the Steelers have. That's why they don't run, because they don't run block. They don't pass protect. And then he lost his dude on the line who retired. Okay, so I don't think Roethlisberger makes the difference. But you say, yeah, but at least he's competent. The Steelers won't be like a laughingstock without him. But here's the thing you might be forgetting, Stephen A. They got Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's never been under 500 in his career as a head coach, even without Roethlisberger, as little as, 13, 14 months ago? 15 months ago? Like, Belichick has been under 500 now. Not Tomlin. So what you know about the Steelers with Mike Tomlin as coach, they will field a competitive team. Does Roethlisberger make a difference? Yeah, but it's marginal in the sense that he ain't going to win you a Super Bowl or make a deep playoff run, I don't believe, at this point. So from the Steelers' point of view, It'd be cool to have Roethlisberger. It's not the end of the world if you don't. And from Roethlisberger's point of view and the rest of ours, same sort of thing. Yeah, it'd be nice. It ain't that important, Stephen A.
Well, you can say that. I disagree with you, again, because of Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins. And even though I love me some Mike Tomlin, all right, you know how I feel about Mike Tomlin, my brother, big-time coach, and he deserves a lot of credit. This is the one point where you can, I pinpoint things because I'm a Steelers fan. For years, I had issues with the secondary. All these short dudes he puts in the secondary, but they're athletic and they can play. Well, now that you've got Minka Fitzpatrick back there with my boy Joe Hayden and the crew, I mean, I'm good with it. I would love a pass rush. I wish J.J. Watt would go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Join the brothers. Join the brothers. Derek and T.J. Join the brothers and show up in Pittsburgh, J.J. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. But here's the deal, Max. I can't let Mike Tomlin or Kevin Colbert off the hook when the last 3 years your running game has been 29th or worse. This past season, it was dead last at 32. That's unacceptable. These are Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about here. You got to be able to run the football, okay? And, yeah, you got to do some run blocking. And I think James Conner can play. He's not a scrub. I just don't view him as a game changer. He's a methodical workhorse and what have you. And obviously, he ain't the most durable dude in the world either, even though his story is great and he's overcome an awful lot in his life. And he's somebody that I root for constantly. At the end of the day, they got to buffer that running game, man. They got to buffer the running game. And if you do that, I think that Big Ben Roethlisberger can do a lot for you because you're not asking as much from him. The man has thrown for over 60,000 yards. He's attempted over 77,000 passes in his career. He's got 396 touchdowns on his resume. He has 201 interceptions, so I'm concerned about that. Not even a 2-to-1 ratio in terms of touchdown to turnovers. But in the end, if Big Ben Roethlisberger, if you can get him a running game, and that defense is still that defense, yes, Max, they'd have a shot to win it all. They would.
Yeah, but you know what? Pouncey retired, and especially in the modern NFL, the center to the quarterback, forget about the relationship off the field or anything like that. That's so important. If anything, the offensive line, I know you're like, well, he's old, you can get a younger guy. It's likely to get worse at first. And then, Stephen A., the fact of the matter is, Roethlisberger is great. He's going to the Hall of Fame. The fact is, Terry Bradshaw, because of the 4 Super Bowl rings, it's not like Roethlisberger is going to replace him as the greatest Steelers quarterback in the eyes of the fans. What would, my point is, there's nothing that says absolutely Roethlisberger must stay a Steeler. He's aiming for this, or without him, they'll be terrible. Or with him, they'll win a Super Bowl.
That's all they got. That's all they got. And remember, when you bring up my Steelers and you bring up Terry Bradshaw, we loved Lynn Swann. We love John Stallworth. But you know what? Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier in that backfield didn't hurt. Okay? It didn't hurt. You need somebody to run the damn football. You need somebody to run the damn football. That's all I'm saying. Run the football.
Facts.
What a defense.
Steelers finished the season at 12-4. I just want to mention this quickly, guys. Again, Big Ben, the $41 million, that would be the largest cap hit over a single season. That really is unreal money.
He's going to take a pay cut, Molly. He's going to take a pay cut.
No, of course, but I'm just saying, imagine he was about to make $41 million this season. That's nice.
That was never
we'll leave it there. When we come back here on First Take, still no deal for Dak. Dak Prescott can be franchise tagged for the second year in a row from now up until March 9th. Dak still has no deal from Dallas long-term security or the tag. Here's our Ed Werder with his thoughts on the Cowboys situation.
Even if they franchise tag him, I think they have to consider drafting a quarterback with the 10th overall pick. That's the highest pick they've had since 2016. With quarterbacks available in this draft and continuing uncertainty about Dak Prescott's long-term commitment, I think they would have to consider drafting a quarterback, even though that's not the way Jerry Jones has operated.
The last time Dallas took a quarterback in the first round, that would be Troy Aikman back in 1989. Look who's here. It's about time I see my friend with some good energy. We're ready for our prom picture and our choral in just a bit. Swaggo, we'll get to you in a second. Obviously, this is your squad.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful today. The fact that we matched it up and the other two guys look like they going to work on Wall Street. I'm just glad we adding some juice to this show today. Fashion sense.
A little flavor, a little something.
Anytime I show up, there's juice, brother. Anytime I show up, there's juice. Okay. It's all right, though. I feel you. I feel
The juice is loose. Okay. Let's go.
Mark is
Stephen
dressing
A.
like,
Should
dressing
Dallas
like Crocketer
draft?
Tubbs from Miami Vice. It's 2021, brother. What are you doing?
Clean. Clean. I'm living the clean life,
We all
Max.
need a little
That's
color
all.
sometimes. That's right. So fresh and so clean. Stephen A., should Dallas draft a quarterback with that 10th pick? What do you think they should do?
Hell no. And no quarterback should want to go there. All you got to do is see how they treat Dak Prescott and shouldn't even want to be there. That's number one. Number two, is Trevor Lawrence going to last to number 10? No. Is Justin Fields going to last until number 10? Likelihood, no. Is Zach Wilson going to last until number 10? Likelihood, no. And there's no other quarterback that anybody felt was worth mentioning at the number 10 spot anyway. I like this kid, Mac Jones, out of Alabama, but I don't expect, I think that he's considered a late first rounder, and I don't think anybody would take the chance of taking him that early, that high in the draft. Having said all of that, again, if those top two quarterbacks are not taken, if they're gone before, unless they fall at number 10, I don't think that you do that. My attitude is, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you know what? How about Patrick Surtain out of Alabama? I mean, he's the leading cornerback in the national, and coming into the draft out of Alabama. And what this brother can do, potentially as a shutdown corner, I think can make Dallas's defense very, very elite. We know they need help on the defensive side of the ball. They've got several holes to fill in that regard, but having a shutdown corner to shut off one side of the field could definitely go a long way. I think that's the manner in which you go. You go about the business of prioritizing signing Dak Prescott, coming to your damn senses and doing what's right, and you call it a day. I don't think you should be thinking about bringing another quarterback into the equation, because that's just making more trouble for next season. First of all, Dak Prescott in all likelihood would be there because you'd franchise him. Secondly, Andy Dalton is no scrub. He's a backup that's capable of giving you starting minutes, at least for a couple of games or a few games or so. I think that is the route that you go. You do not draft a quarterback. You draft somebody on the defensive side of the ball, and primarily in this particular case, considering how big time Patrick Surtain is out of Alabama, I think you go that route.
I think first, Ed Werder has had a very good, he's been all over this situation with good ways to think about it. For example, I quoted the other day, I actually think it was on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin in the morning, Stephen A., on the radio. I think Ed was like, look, you wanted that fifth year of control so bad that you wouldn't take 4. Instead, you took 1. It doesn't make sense. So I like the way he's thinking about this, but I disagree with this. I'm with you here, Stephen A., unfortunately. You don't draft a quarterback 10 unless you love the guy. Like if Justin Fields falls to 10, yes, because he's considered, he has some of the same qualities Dak does, but maybe we don't know about the leadership and the professionalism because he hasn't been there yet. But physically, he seems like a souped-up version, maybe. So I get it. I get that. And then it restarts the rookie contract and all that. But if he's not there, why spend the 10th pick on it? Let's not forget, they got Dak in the 4th round. They might love a guy later in the draft. You don't have to use the 10th overall pick. And I'll tell you something else. Dallas has a lot of holes to fill right now. You mentioned a defensive back. Yes, Stephen A. A corner, they really need it. That's probably top. But I'll give you another idea here. The offensive line. The reason Dallas's offense got so great, not just Dak, because before that it was Romo. It was the offensive line. They invested in that offensive line. It was like 1 year after another. First round pick, first round pick, first round pick. I want to say 4 out of 5 years. That's why they had the best O-line in the business. It ain't the best anymore. You've had injury. You've had retirement. You've had a whole bunch of stuff. And guys just continue to miss time because of injury. The O-line's not the same anymore. That offense won't be the same. So I would say, you're probably right. Corner first. I would look at the O-line if I wasn't looking at the corner. By the way, linebacker.
Oh, my God.
They have this tandem at linebacker that looks super athletic and talented, but they underproduce. They have so many problems that they need to address high up in the draft. Quarterback isn't one of them, especially since they're giving Dak a contract. Let's not get crazy.
Well, listen, first of all, we're talking about this situation with a caveat. Obviously, we're talking about should the Cowboys draft a quarterback if one of the guys we've been talking about in this draft falls to number 10, or they can make a move up to get him. Yes, it's smart because you don't want to be in Stephen A's team situation down the line. what Pittsburgh is in right now. Don't have a damn quarterback. Bad numbers on the book for their starting quarterback. You don't know if Dak is going to want to come back to Dallas. You don't know if this contract is going to get done. Max, I done heard everybody say what you just said. It's going to get done. They're going to sign. How? What evidence do you have to prove that a contract is going to get done? Because all the evidence leads me to believe that we'll be here again watching Dak Prescott play under franchise tag. And then guess what after that franchise tag? Either you're telling me that Andy Dalton is the future and you're going to use him as a bridge quarterback until you can identify one, or you draft one of these young guys, you figure out a way to get them, you don't have to pay them a lot of money, and just in case Dak Prescott, who, by the way, has all the leverage, decides, I'm going to depart from Dallas and go play somewhere else. You know what you got? A succession plan. You know who else was killed for that? That doesn't look so bad now? The Green Bay Packers. They got Jordan Love. Everybody lost their mind, went crazy.
Oh, please.
The bottom line is they have potentially a succession plan. Please, your team just signed Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph is the backups. That's why Pittsburgh is in the situation they're in right now.
I definitely don't like that. But in the same breath, don't talk to me about Jordan Love. You haven't seen him yet. Don't get me started on Matt LaFleur and what's going on in Green Bay. That's number one. Number two.
They drafted him. They drafted him as a succession plan.
I understand. We'll see whether or not there is a succession plan. We'll find out. We'll see. Secondly, and more importantly, here's the deal. Why are you talking about Big Ben Roethlisberger like that? I mean, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, throw for 3,800 yards in 15 games. You talking like he a scrub or something like that. They don't have no offensive line, don't have any running game. All right, you put it all on him. I'm not saying that he's that dude anymore, but it ain't like the brother's a scrub. It ain't like he can't come in there next year and still do some things. You ain't got to be so disrespectful like that.
What?
What? You heard what I said?
Number one, my argument had nothing to do with Ben Roethlisberger's ability. We know he's lost some ability, but we also know that if you insulate him with good people around him, he still can sufficiently carry a franchise in a way. Okay. But what you going to do after he leaves, Stephen A? Well,
I understand that.
Do you know Pittsburgh is going to have a quarterback next year?
I do not know that. I do not know that, but I do know what they do have. Oh, wait a minute. I do know what they do have, and I do know in the case of the Dallas Cowboys, again, you're making the assumption that people are assuming Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, or Zach Wilson. They were just saying blanketly the Dallas Cowboys need to draft a quarterback. They didn't sit up there. Of course, if one of those three are available, you got to strongly consider that if you're the Dallas Cowboys. But
here's the
point. Guess what? My priority walking in, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm not thinking they're going to fall to 10. So if those three are not there at 10, then I need to prioritize elsewhere. I don't need to just grab a quarterback just to make sure I got a security blanket for Dak Prescott when I can get a Patrick Surtain or this kid Slater out of Northwestern as an offensive tackle or somebody else. I might need to go that route instead of just grabbing a quarterback just to make sure I got somebody that can throw a football because Dak Prescott's going to be gone.
So you're not going to grab one this year just to put yourself in position to grab one next year?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, Marcus. What did you say?
Marcus, go ahead.
Go ahead, Max. So you're going to draft a quarterback next year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, draft him next year.
I was going to say, I hate agreeing with Stephen A. about this, Marcus, but he's absolutely right. If Justin Fields is not there at 10, if they don't love the guy that's there at 10, you know what it is just to draft a quarterback? You bring up the Steelers, right? Well, they drafted Mason Rudolph.
Max, we ain't talking about the Cowboys drafting no scrub.
We ain't
talking about them drafting just no any guy.
You gotta love the dude that you're going to draft. And they don't have to use the 10th pick. They got Dak in the 4th round. They might find a dude later on in the draft that they like as much as whoever's there at 10. You bring up the Steelers as an example. That's what the Steelers did. The Steelers drafted later on, oh, we like this guy. This guy might be the answer. He wasn't. You can't hope that the dude is going to be something and spend a draft pick on him. He has to be a guy you actually like. Obviously, Green Bay really likes Jordan Love. They really think he can be something.
Okay.
You don't do it just to do it.
Okay, well. In that case, I apologize. I was under the impression that we were focusing on this 10th pick based on the guys we've been talking about in this draft as far as quarterbacks that we think have a future. It's not far-fetched that the Cowboys would consider a quarterback at 10 based on what their situation is with Dak Prescott. It's also not far-fetched that they would potentially try to move up to get one of these guys. Why would that be so out of the ordinary when you got a quarterback you've been in negotiation with for 3 years that you may lose after this year? Why is that so far-fetched?
Moving up, that's a different story.
They should draft a quarterback to move on in the future.
I think anything can be perceived as far-fetched when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and intelligent decisions based on what has transpired over the last 3 years. And I'm quoting accurately because that's essentially what some dude named Marcus Spears, a.k.a. Pastor Spears, that was saying on Get Up this morning. So I'm just saying, I mean, it's not beyond the run. I mean, anytime you talk about that making sense, well, duh, they don't really usually do that.
That's why I think this would be,
Marcus?
why I think on their behalf, this would be pretty smart.
They ain't gonna listen.
Marcus, since you and I look like Miami Vice, let's just drop them off on Wall Street, and you and I we'll head down and go get a Mai Tai at Miami Vice.
Marcus Spears look like Miami Vice? He might look like one of the bouncers for Miami Vice.
I'll see you on NFL Live.
I mean, come on.
Oh, my goodness. Bye, guys. All right, when we come back, we're talking all-star snubs. Which NBA player got snubbed from this roster? Max and Stephen A. have plenty. Programs have won 149 Southwestern Athletic Conference championships. Now let's hear from JSU's new head football coach, primetime, our friend Deion Sanders, who was interviewed on our behalf, I love this, by his sons and members of the Tigers football team, keeping it in the family. A lot of star power, Shador and Shai.
Teary-eyed because the guys and presented me with the game ball, one of the best moments I've ever had in my professional sports career emotionally.
What was the reason you wanted to be the head coach at Jackson State, and what really just brought you here?
You guys, I wanted to coach you guys on the same team again.
Before you knew we was coming, what brought you over here?
God spoke in my spirit and challenged me to come here and provoke change, not just at Jackson State, but for all HBCUs, and level the darn playing field.
The people want to know how far we're going to take it, though. I mean, we know. But
we're going to the bridge, baby. And we're going to cross it. And we're going to go back across it. And we're going to go back across it again. When have we ever have done anything? They ain't never have done nothing. So we're going to do this thing like it has never been done before, but there's an expectation of that. You know, I have an expectation. I think what people got to understand is not only me, but several members of the coaching staff, we come from the pros, man. So our level and our thought process and our understanding is here, and what we've seen, what we've felt, and what we've dealt with in the Super Bowls and all that, and the playoff games. Man, we have experience, and we know how this look.
How would you have coached a younger version of you? Here go Primetime 2.0 right there.
How would you coach me, pretty much?
Well, you are tough. You are the son that keep me on my knees and keep me praying, because you're challenging. You're very challenging. You always have questions instead of just doing what we tell you. You always have questions. He, on the other hand, he gets what I say later, but he internalizes it and he tries to incorporate it, but he'll see the fruit thereof of it later. But both of you guys are phenomenal players, and I think you're gonna play on Sundays one day.
So how does it feel to be able to coach us now at the next level?
Well, it feels good, but I hadn't been able to coach you guys at a college game. Both you guys are ineligible to play because he played last year in South Carolina. You still considered a high school kid, even though you graduated from high school, so you're not eligible to play until September 25th. As of right now, if my count is correct, I think we're at 192 days. Something like 192 days until we get down. September the 5th. So I'm counting those days down. Well, I walk towards the end zone and our conversation thereof that we will have. And when we hit that end zone, that pile on and come back the other way, it's time to get down.
So since we got players that can't play, and the players are already here, what are you looking to get out of this season, this spring season?
And you guys got to be excited. You guys got to be excited to understand that what we did this past Sunday, and we did that with probably 4 or 5 guys that is going to have to fight for a starting job in the fall on both sides of the ball. and that equates to a better special teams as well. And we were very dominant in all three phases of the game, and I was particularly happy about that.
How do you think HBCUs will get big players coming out of high school?
Well, everything, every phase of it, we got to improve so that we can attract those type of kids. So we don't give them any reason not to. We want to give them every reason to. But I don't want a child just coming here because the uniform looks good, or he think he's going to be on TV every week. I want him to come here because he think we can develop him and take him to the next level. That this is an address as well that can lead to the NFL. That's why I want him to come.
What message do you have for Stephen A. Smith?
Stephen A. is my dog. Stephen A. is my man. Even though sometimes we may disagree, but it's disagreeing out of love. I really do think Stephen A. is a national treasure that we hadn't yet recognized what all he brings to the table and how valuable he is to our community and to our people.
All right, Deion already getting his first win. Look at that, 53-0 over Edward Waters. And next up, they have Mississippi Valley State, alma mater of the Hall of Famer Jerry Rice. And Stephen A., some kind words there. You heard Prime calling you a national treasure. That's not appreciated as much as he should be, especially by your community. I also want to mention, guys, I love the way they did that interview, Shiloh, Shador, and just seeing him interact with his sons. How much fun is that he gets the opportunity not only to be at an HBCU, help his own community, but also be with his family. So, Stephen A., I'll ask you this. What would be success for Deion at Jackson State?
Well, he's got to be, you got to win football games, win division titles, win a conference championship. They will last won the division title, I think, in 2013. They will last won a conference championship in like 2007, if I remember correctly. Forgive me for diverting away a little bit. I didn't know that he had said that about me, and I'm really humbled and touched by what he had to say. Deion and I have been friends for years, and he's my brother. I love him dearly, and I have so much respect for him. Knowing what he stands for, knowing what he's about. We share a lot of, private and intimate conversations with one another throughout the years, and I know how passionate he is about coaching, but I also know how passionate he is about being the leader of young men. And that's what being a part of an HBCU program is all about. And he alluded to it earlier in the interview with his sons. And obviously they look like him, they can ball, and you can see how much of a proud papa he is. And I love the imagery of them talking to him and interviewing him, because just like he has strived to influence them, obviously, all their lives as their daddy, this is what he wants to do. Obviously to a lesser degree, to some degree, to young men, young African-American men throughout this nation. This is a man that wants to make a difference, and he knows that he has to utilize football to some degree in order to pull that off. So when you talk about him coaching this football team and striving for it to be successful, Max, he understands what it's going to lead to. The more successful he is at Jackson State, the more it shines a light on a program. As a light is shined on a program, ultimately he knows he can be the conduit to it shining a light on HBCUs, which is where a lot of black men choose to attend colleges and universities and ultimately graduate from it and go on to be contributors to our society in a very, very positive manner. And so for me to have to talk to him, to have the pleasure of having talked to him about this on several occasions, for him to be a part of an HBCU program and to lead them. He knows he's got to win, and everything about him says he's a winner. He was a winner in professional sports. He was a winner on a collegiate level. Individually, he's the greatest cornerback that's ever played football. But I'm here to tell y'all something. I don't give a damn what you see about him as an athlete, a football player, or now as a coach. In my opinion, based on my friendship with him and knowing him, it is nothing compared to the man that he is. He is an incredible, incredible person. I love him like a brother. He's near and dear to my heart all the time, and nobody roots for him more than me.
That's quite a compliment he paid you, Stephen A., especially because the subject is around HBCUs, and I want to hear actually a little more from you about what that means to you, considering the subject. I'll just quickly say that Deion Sanders, I'm trying to think of the history of sports, especially in modern history, when someone on Deion's level decided to come back and coach. Like Michael Jordan didn't coach. you know, who was he a head coach for? Or Lawrence Taylor or you know, whoever it is, Joe DiMaggio, or, you know, the greatest players throughout history generally don't come back and coach. And certainly at a place that represents the kind, in certain respects, their beginnings. That is unique. And a lot of times it's because the super talented don't understand what it takes for like normal human beings, not supernaturally gifted human beings, to win. They get frustrated, right? Like, why can't you do it the way I did it? And that's not Deion Sanders. He's in the argument for greatest athlete of all time, considering the way he played football especially, but also baseball. And what he's showing now at this point of his life is a new dimension, especially when you consider the way he was treated by the media early in his career. He's being selfish by trying to play two sports, stuff like that. We see a real selflessness and sense of purpose that he hasn't been given enough credit for. But I'm curious to know more about your feelings, especially more than your thoughts, with that compliment he paid you, especially around the issue of HBCUs.
Well, I'm humbled by it. You know, I think that, you know, one of the things that I consistently have said, Max, is that there is no, I don't care if it's an individual, if it's a team or anything, there is nobody, outside of me trolling Cowboy fans, of course, there is nobody that can look at me and when I have to call people to the carpet or get on them about what they have done or what they're doing, there's no one that can look at me and say that I'm somebody that's rooting for somebody to fail. My attitude is I want everybody to get theirs. I want to try to uplift as many people as I possibly can. But I'm unapologetic about the fact that although that I'm that way in general, there's a special place in my heart for black folks because of the challenges that we face day in and day out, coming from disenfranchised communities throughout this nation. And that's one of the things that I've religiously talked to guys like Primetime and others about. And two people that really touched me, and I've brought this up sporadically in the past, is Deion Sanders and Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Famer that is Isaiah Thomas. I was a high school reporter, Max Kellerman, in New York City for the New York Daily News. And I remember one time I showed up to a practice. The Detroit Pistons were playing, scheduled to play the New York Knicks. Isaiah Thomas was approaching retirement. At that particular moment in time, he wasn't talking to the media, but he saw me. And he said, "Come over here, young fella," and he granted me an interview. Nate Tiny Archibald did the same thing. Years later, when I was covering college sports and Primetime was the man and all of this other stuff, he saw me walk into the locker room, and he came to the media and he said, "I'm done." He was talking to the media. He said, "I'm done," and came over there and gave me a hug and started talking to me. And that was the first time we had met. And at that time, he was a Baltimore Raven. He was a Washington Redskin. He wasn't with San Francisco or Dallas. And I think back to moments like that where you see a person that has arrived and they reach back to uplift you. They see some potential in you. They talk to you. They give you guidance, but they never encourage you to compromise yourself or who you are or what you're supposed to be doing in this business. And I love the fact that when he brought me up, he pointed out the fact that we disagree, because we do disagree from time to time. We just disagreed the other day because even though I thought he was absolutely 1,000% correct in what he said, when somebody stole something from his locker, I came on First Take publicly saying, "Hey, you know what? I might have handled that a little bit differently, more in-house." That was one of the things that we disagreed about. It's not the first time we've disagreed with each other. It ain't the last time. But he knows that I'm rooting for him and I wish him the best. And just because I might disagree with what he may have done or he may disagree with what I may have said, we don't disagree with who we are as men, as black men. And our mission to help uplift as many people from our community as possible, and to go about the business of putting forth our due diligence to be all that we can be so we can help inspire others from the communities that we come from to be all they can be. We're like-minded in that regard. We're like-minded in that agenda, as is Isaiah Thomas and so many others. And that's where the love comes from, man. Looking each other in the eye, man to man, knowing that we're as real and as authentic as we can possibly be with one another, and knowing that we care about stuff like that. That's one of the reasons, Molly, you know what, there's been times in the past where we've, myself with Jalen Rose, you know, we disagreed on a basketball matter and all of this other stuff. What that brother does in Detroit to contribute to his community and stuff like that. I mean, it's just, you see Ryan Clark, he's got a fitness center. He's helping out young brothers in the NFL on the come up. I'm just so humbled and yet so proud to know so many people by being fortunate enough to work in this business and work for ESPN and beyond, to come across all the brothers and sisters that I know who go about the business of trying to extend themselves to help others on the come up, to recognize the fact that, you know what, it don't mean a damn thing if you at the top all by yourself and you ain't doing anything to reach back and help people to ascend to the levels that you are. So many people in our line of work are doing the same thing that I strive to do every day. And when we look each other in the eye and we know we're like-minded, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to hear. Again, I'm humbled by what he had to say to me about me, but I feel the exact same way about him. I love him dearly, as I do all those other people that I mentioned, because I know who they are. I know what they stand for. And when it comes to HBCUs, that's just added incentive to love him even more. And I'm really humbled by what he had to say.
No question. It's about paying it forward. And I can't wait to see what he does at Jackson State. All right, fellas, we will leave it there when we come. All right, now it's time for the students, fellas, to decide the debate. And we are going to start with criminal justice major Javius McInnes.
And my question for you, Stephen A. Smith, is do you think Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets are going to be able to win a championship this year?
Yes. 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 The only hiccup potentially is Anthony Davis coming back 100%, which I don't think is going to happen. The Brooklyn Nets are my favorite to win the chip. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, if AD doesn't come back 100% healthy, I agree with you. There could be hiccups on the way. I'm not positive they get by the Sixers. And if AD is healthy, that's a hell of a finals. Maybe I would take the Lakers there. But, woo, the Nets are a whole lot of, and now they're starting to play defense.
They are a problem.
All right, next up, fellas, we got Warren Newman, also a criminal justice major here. Warren.
I want to know, what do the New Orleans Pelicans need to win the championship?
They need a few things. I got to give Brandon Ingram some credit where credit is due. He's averaging 24 a game. He's shooting 46% from the field. He looks impressive. I'm shocked that a Stan Van Gundy team is ranked like 25th defensively. I'm shocked by that. I expected him to be better defensively because he's such a damn good coach. But I think they'll get their act together. But I think that, you know what? I think they need an elite point guard, to be quite honest with you. I really, really do. You know, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, they're going to do their thing. I get that. I like some of the young pieces that they have, but I think they need an elite floor general. I would love, Max Kellerman, for example, to see a young Chris Paul with those guys. That would have been special. Just as an example.
Well, young Chris Paul is an improvement there, although I think they have talent there, too. You look at that roster, it's good, it's young, it's improving. Yeah. The answer is time. They need experience, and before you talk about anything else they need to add, Zion's got to take the next step eventually. I'm not saying, he hasn't done it already. You know, it's very early still, and he's very young.
Second year.
But in the next couple of years, Zion Williamson's got to become an MVP candidate. And if he can do that, the Pelicans will be in contention for a championship.
In fairness to him, though, Max, his second year, the brother's averaging 25 on 61% shooting.
Oh, he's a monster.
I mean, damn. It's not too far off, is what I'm trying to say. Zion's doing his thing now.
He's a beast. He's a beast, but also Brandon Ingram, as much as he's putting up those numbers, I don't look at Brandon Ingram and think that's one of the 10 best players in the league, or even in the West.
He's good,
so
though.
I think also he has to take the next step, and he's taken a bunch already.
He is showing that he's better than Kyle Kuzma at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And again, Zion will join us on Friday. Finally, guys, we have a biomedical engineering major, Kayla Owens.
My question is, do you think the Dodgers will be repeat champions of the World Series?
Ooh, go ahead with that one, Max. I'll give you that one first.
I would say this. Baseball is more luck-based than, let's say, the NBA, basketball, where you can run all your plays through your best players and all that. There's less to chance. But this is the thing about the Dodgers. They play money ball with money. They have the best analytics or among them. They got the biggest payroll or among it. And when you look at the way they construct this team, Stephen A., there are things you can do to tilt the postseason, a small sample size in your favor. You can get hitters that don't have a huge variance in terms of how they hit good pitching and bad pitching. Those guys will tend to hit better in the playoffs. The Dodgers are aware of all these things. Swing and miss stuff from your starting pitchers. They bring on Trevor Bauer to a team that just won the World Series, and now we're asking, do they even need Clayton Kershaw back? After he got the monkey off his back by pitching the way he did in the postseason and winning a World Series finally. Yeah, the Dodgers are probably the favorites to win the whole thing again.
They should be the favorites, Max, and I'll give you a more simplified reason, because taking into account all those things you just said, which was right on the money. Here's the deal. They got the monkey off their back. 1988 was the last time they won a World Series. They had numerous bites at the apple and they didn't get it done. And then in bubble play, I tell you right now, during the coronavirus pandemic, with sparse crowds and things of that nature, it was incredibly exciting watching that World Series. It really, really was. And to see them, get that monkey off their back, the proverbial monkey off their back, I think now it's easy sailing. I think this upcoming World Series, as much as I hate to admit it because I'm a diehard Yankee fan, I think it'll be much easier to capture than last year's.
Hey, Stephen A., real quick, 2 words, too, that we have to say. Mookie Betts.
Betts.
Whew. That dude, I understand, in a league with Mike Trout, it's hard to say anyone else is the best player, but he might be the dude you want. He is exciting and shows up.
You did say
big
2
moments.
words. You did say 2 words. Let's go. We got some debating.
Well, come on. Mookie Betts.
Not 15. Really quick, before we get to the debate, I just want to say thank you to JSU for making today really special for us, the faculty and the students. All right, the NBA announced the reserve selections for next month's All-Star Game in Atlanta on Tuesday night, and there were some notable omissions that had the NBA world on fire last night. Let's bring in our guy, Kendrick Perkins, to join us as we dive into this conversation.
KP.
Kendrick, we'll get to you in a moment. Stephen A., you're up first. Who was the biggest all-star snub?
This hurts to admit to you. I think it was Devin Booker. And the reason why I say it hurts me to say, in the interest of full disclosure, y'all know that not only do I do this show and I host my other show, Stephen A.'s World, and Sports Center, with Stephen A. for my NBA show, but I'm also executive producing a docuseries, Why Not Us, on the North Carolina Central University basketball program. It's me with Roadside Entertainment and CP3, Chris Paul. And the reason why I say it hurts me to say this is because I love Chris Paul and I love his game and I love the fact that he's an all-star. But if you're going to pick a Phoenix Sun, it was supposed to be Devin Booker before Chris Paul. That's my issue. I look at all of these guys. All of these guys on the squad are deserving of being on the squad. Somebody was going to get snubbed, and we get that. But when I look at the Phoenix Suns, you're 20-10. Okay, you're 20-10. You're the top 4 seed in the Western Conference as we speak. Okay, Devin Booker is leading the way with 24 a game on 50% shooting. He's balling and nearly 40% shooting from 3-point range. He's gotten better. They're a top 4, top 5 defensive team in the NBA. Monty Williams, oh, by the way, look, when we sit here and we talk about the paucity of black coaches in the National Basketball Association, black men that have been assistants for years that are getting bypassed and ain't getting the opportunity. I mean, there have been examples before, but the job that Monty Williams is doing in Phoenix, is anybody paying attention? 8-0 in the bubble. People thought it was a fluke. They come out, they start off 11-9 or something like that. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. They are balling. And Devin Booker is leading the way. Love CP3. Love him. And happy for and proud of his leadership with the NBPA. Proud that he gets on the court and do what he does. But if there was a Phoenix Sun that was supposed to be on the All-Star game, on the All-Star team out of the Western Conference, it was supposed to be Devin Booker before CP3. And I think even CP3 would agree with that. I'm sorry.
Look, I'm glad you brought up who should be left off, because you can say whatever you want about a snub. It's only a snub. Now tell me who you're going to snub who's on the team. So I agree with you, by the way. On the Western Conference, if you're talking about guards, Devin Booker ahead of CP3, and that's saying a lot. CP3's been great. But I'll tell you something else. Devin Booker has to be on the team. He has to be on the team. I don't care what you have to do, because it's an all-star game. And the star appeal and the spectacular nature of someone's game has got to matter in a tiebreaker. Even sometimes, I'll tell you who, Paul George's a great two-way player. He's having an all-star season, the whole thing. You want to say, well, actually, technically, he's more valuable because of this and that. I would take Devin Booker before I took him. I got to be honest. I would take Devin Booker before a whole bunch of guys. They were 8-0 in the bubble. They were undefeated in the bubble. They win twice as much as they lose this season. And his game reminds me of, we talk about attitude and who reminds you the most of the Mamba mentality and everything. But his offensive game reminds me of a little mini Kobe Bryant. Like, what can't he do offensively in terms of scoring? Devin Booker's got to be on the team.
Look, Stephen A. Max, I don't disagree with either one of you. I strongly believe that Devin Booker should be on the team, and I do believe he got snubbed. But here it is. I come from old country Beaumont, Texas, and I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandmother is from Louisiana. And when someone makes a dumb mistake, she used to always say, God bless their heart, baby. They don't know no better. And that's how I feel about the coaches right now. Because the way that they did Domantas Sabonis is just ridiculous, okay? This guy is so valuable to the league. It's crazy. He is a baby Jokic. He does everything for this Pacers team. He is averaging 21 points, almost 12 rebounds a game, with 5 dimes a game. The offense runs through him. It's nothing that he can't do offensively. You talk about a great passing big, he's up there. You talk about a great rebounder, he's up there. You talk about a guy that's able to put it on the floor and put it in the basket in majority of the ways, he's up there. Now, who would I take off the list in the Eastern Conference? Is Big Vucevic. I always struggle with his name. But I would take him off for the simple fact that the coaches vote for the reserves, okay? And they always want to move the goalposts, and they say, oh, we want to vote someone in that is performing at a high level individually and impacting winning. The Orlando Magic are not winning right now. So how did he make it above Sabonis? Well, Sabonis has to get his just due, and I feel like he was the biggest snub.
That's a good choice. I still don't think it's bigger than Devin Booker, but that's a damn good choice that you make. I know we got to move on. The only thing that I want to say is, Big Perk, I got to get on you about something. If you want somebody to come at you on a debate show, man, you can't be bringing up grandma. How we going to disagree with grandma? You can't do that to us. I mean, what we supposed to do? We can't come back at you and hey, we don't care about what grandma thinks. No, of course we do. We can't say anything about grandma. You can't do that to us. That's handicapping us, man.
No, but Stephen A., I just wanted to throw that Louisiana slang out there because, when they say bib, he be saying that a lot. That's all.
Okay. All right. I'll go with
Stephen A., I'm trying to get Granny on the radio show.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get Granny on the radio show. And I'll tell you something else. I think she wants to come on, and Perk is keeping us apart. That's right, Perk. I said it.
Nah. I want Stone on first take. That's who I want on first take. I want the little one right there, Mac. You remember? That's who I want on first take. That's who I want to see on first take. That's who I want to see. I'm sorry.
You special family.
That box office right there.
Perk. They don't know no better. All right, guys, let me get in one more debate here before we say goodbye. So moving on, this year marked the shortest offseason in the history of the NBA. And despite that, we've seen some of the biggest performances from the league's brightest stars. That being said, who's been the best player in the NBA this season, Max?
Joel Embiid. At this point in the season, Joel Embiid's been the best player in the NBA. Let me tell you something. This shocked me. First of all, offensively, look at all the numbers. He's been the best. Look at all the numbers. He's been the best offensively. Defensively, I would argue, he's also been the best. There's offense and there's defense. Well, what else is there? There's winning. His team has the best record in the conference. They can't win without him. Much better record with him than without him, in spite of the fact that Simmons is also playing very well. No, it's Joel Embiid, and here's something that blew my mind. Guys, do you know who has the highest scoring average per 36 minutes in the history of the NBA for their careers? For their careers, because Jordan's number 1, KD is number 3, Kobe's on that list in the top 10. Number 1 per 36 minutes for his career after he dropped 50 the other day? Joel Embiid. people don't know. And this year, guys, he's in shape and he's healthy. He's been the best player in the league so far.
Well, with all due respect to GOAT LeBron James and Joel Embiid and Big Jokic, the best player in the league this year, February 24th, 2021, has been James Harden. Look, not only is he the best player, he's the best point guard in the league. And if you look at what James Harden has been doing this season is arguably his best season of his career. Yes, he's only averaging 25 points, but we all know he's capable of averaging 30. He's done it the last 3 years, averaged 30 plus a night. But look, on top of that, he is averaging his highs in rebounding at 11.6. He's averaging, at assists, he's averaging 11.6 assists, leading the league in assists. He's averaging 8.5 rebounds, his career high. He's averaging a career high of shooting 50 from the field. So let me take you down memory lane for a second. The Brooklyn Nets just went on a West Coast trip. First stop, Golden State Warriors. James Harden goes into Steph Curry Arena and gives him that business. They take a bus ride to Sacramento. He goes down. Been hearing the chatter about De'Aaron Fox. He gives them that work. And then on the back-to-back, he goes to Phoenix. Without Kevin Durant and without Kyrie Irving, being down 21 at the half, while the Phoenix Suns had been on a 6-game winning streak at home, and goes and drops 38, 11, and 7. And then he flies to L.A., back to Compton where he was born and raised, and take on the top dogs in the Lakers and Clippers and hand them the business. And then fly back home. We leave off the road. We went 5-0. We come back to the crib. Forget the time zone. That's not going to affect me. Well, Sacramento Kings have been waiting on them. And guess what? He dropped a 29-point triple-double with a dub without Kevin Durant again. The Nets are on a 7-game winning streak. This is some of the best basketball that I've seen James Harden play. And right now, today, he is the best player in the league.
Max Kellerman, I almost think it's almost sacrilegious to leave LeBron James out of the mix, Max and KP. But for the purposes of this argument, I got to admit, I'm going to side with Big Perk on this. James Harden has been sensational. He's averaging 25 and 11. He's shooting 48% from the field, nearly 40 from three-point range. He's shooting better than 85% from the free throw line. Oh, by the way, he's putting up double-doubles like it's going out of style. He dropped 38 on Phoenix. I'm looking at the numbers here. He dropped 37 on the Clippers. We know what he's been doing, and he's leading the way. And then when you take into account the fact that Kevin Durant has been out, it hasn't mattered. The fact that people were calling him out of shape because he was, it didn't matter. The fact that he had created some controversy because people were calling him out because of how he departed from Houston and what have you. You just look at that and we forgot the fact that, we needed to appreciate the reality that it clearly wasn't about the money, because he was offered a 2-year extension at $103 million and turned it down because he's prioritized winning. And then he shows up in Brooklyn with Kyrie as a teammate, with KD as a teammate, with guys like Jeff Green, Joe Harris, TLC and the crew to appease. And somehow, some way, he takes over ball handling and point guard responsibilities and has played like the best point guard in the game. Not to mention the fact that his defense in the post area showing his strength. He couldn't be pushed around. Just ask Kawhi Leonard how tough he was, difficult he was in the post in terms of defense. James Harden has been nothing short of sensational. He is a league MVP candidate. And even though Joel Embiid is playing lights out, it does help that they surrounded him. Tobias Harris is having a career year. Tobias Harris, Seth Curry has been playing lights out. Ben Simmons is still doing what he's doing. And he's got the coaching of Doc Rivers. James Harden just simply is James Harden. This is showing his level of unselfishness, his selflessness, and he is leading this team. He's a league MVP candidate, and I got to side with Big Perk on this.
He is a candidate. He's playing the most impressive ball of his career, and that's saying something. I totally agree. I think he missed too many games with the Nets early to push him ahead of Embiid, considering Embiid's offense, defense, and the Sixers' record. But Harden is showing you something right now. It's ridiculous.